Hey, what's up guys? In today's video we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. As you can see, this is a 1 hour video, so make sure to watch the whole thing. That really helps me out with the monetization requirements. Anyway, I've been having a ton of fun on Invaded Land Skyblock, and today I tried a funny meme, you might know it. It's the things that been trending lately. So yeah, I did something crazy and it actually got me banned. Check out this clip. Fortunately, I didn't catch the exact moment I got banned on the video, but you'll still see what led up to it.
Trallallero, trallallà. Liri li la rilla, elefante ne piera. Liri li la rilla, elefante ne piera.
So yeah, I got banned for 24 hours. They put me in jail. And in the jail, you can actually mine coal to get out. Basically, you need around 3,000 coal or 3,000 credits to free yourself from the prison. But I can't mine for that long, because you have to mine the same coal or 5 times just to get 1 credit. It's super slow. You can also just buy your way out on the Embedded Land store. But I'm broke as hell, so I just waited the full 24 hours and logged back in the next day. I was super bored, so I asked if anyone wanted to PvP with me in the arena. Someone pulled up and we start fighting. After that fight, yeah, it went for a long time. I didn't cut or edit the fight at all, so you'll see the full thing. I know it might get a little boring, but if you stick around and watch the whole thing, I really appreciate it. Also, just a heads up, my PvP skills aren't the best, and my aim is pretty bad. Anyway, if you do watch it all the way through, you might notice someone messaging me, asking for help getting started. So I teleported to him, gave him some money, and he told me he hadn't played in a while. His Skyblock memory was kind of rusty. I then tipped him to my island and told him to check out the board I made, since it has a bunch of useful Skyblock commands listed on it. A moment later, out of nowhere, he bought me some invaded keys, which cost real money. I was like, hey yo, what? I thanked him, and he said he did it because I helped him out. That was honestly really wholesome, so I thank him again. And yeah, like I said earlier, this is 1 hour video, so we talk about a lot of stuff, but the main reason it's that long is because of the PvP clip that was take up most of the time. Anyways, I was still bored after all that, so I decided to 1v1 the greatest cheater on invaded lands. This guy, Uokaido Senpai, or his alt Crack Potato. He told me he got 3 accounts, so he doesn't even care if he gets banned. Classic. Back in the day, he was my friend. I know this guy cheats. He literally told me himself. I even told him to stop. Like, bro, what's the point? But nope. He just kept going. Now he's out here saying he doesn't cheat. You're right. Look at this clip. You seriously telling me this is legit? Nah, you can literally see it. So I 1v with him, and for once, he didn't use his axe. Every time I fly around, he kept calling me scared. But really, I was just planning my move. I was setting up to mace him, and that's exactly what I did. After that victory, I took his stuff. Because hey, he's a cheater. Normally we give back the loot after a fair fight, but this wasn't one of those time. If you cheat, you don't get your stuff back. Simple as that. He got mad after I took his stuff, but honestly, I don't care. He cheats, he doesn't deserve it back. Then I noticed I had racked up ton of kills, and was wiping out even more players. This clip you're about to see is full fight PvP. No cuts, just straight action, with some background music. Hope you watch it all the way through. Thanks.